20 years of marriage. 20 years of long, hard-fought marriage. We've been through the thick and the thin. And now I've discovered a secret that apparently has been going on for a decade. And you guys won't believe it. Let me walk you through the day that my life ended. I'm a 42-year-old guy whose life just got turned upside down. Hello, I'm Henry, a successful businessman, and my life had always been tough, but I thought it was good. The hard work that I put in made my life discomfortable to live in. However, my family clearly did not think so. I should start from the beginning, though. I come from a lower middle-class family. As a child, I was taught about the importance of money and how it can quite literally change lives. Growing up, all I could dream about was being successful, enough to make enough money to live my life without having to worry about running out of it. I credit all my success at this age to my childhood thinking and the struggles that I faced. My wife Samantha, who was also my high school sweetheart, well, she knew where I was coming from. She'd been with me through thick and thin, and she had seen how my family struggled for money and how we could only afford to get basic necessities. She also knew how big my dreams were. In fact, she was the one who encouraged me to dream big and helped me achieve my dreams. Samantha and I began our marriage over 20 years now, and we've had a 17-year-old daughter who I love to the moon and back. Our years as a couple during our early years were amazing, if I'm being quite honest. We understood each other really well, and we had this spark that never went away. We were like two puzzle pieces that fit together perfectly, and everybody always thought that we would love each other till the day that we died. However, I've lost hope about that now. Something I never thought would happen. Well, it happened. From what I think and observed, it started when my business started to take off, and I got busy trying to keep up with it. I didn't want to be stuck doing a 9-to-5 job like everybody else. So I was very determined to make my own business and have it be successful. Fortunately for me, the business took off in over a year, making it one of the top companies in the country. Nevertheless, this also meant that the workload that was put on me, during the early years of the business was insane. I'd leave early morning, come home super late, and too tired to even handle a conversation. That's not to say that I did not put effort into the relationship anymore. I was still there for her. I would make sure to take time out every day to at least have a nice and calm conversation with her, even if it was for 5 minutes. I also made sure I remembered every single thing and every single day in our relationship so I could make those memories special for Samantha. Well, I guess all the efforts weren't really worth it because Samantha still got really distant. At first, I thought it's because I wasn't doing enough, but I was doing as much as I could considering I was the CEO of a company that was growing at an incredible pace. I tried communicating with her, but asking her what the issue was, so I could try to solve it, but she would never give me a straight reply. Then 3 years into our marriage, our daughter Haley was born. She was the biggest gift that life and Samantha had ever given to me, and I think I was the happiest I've ever seen that day Haley was born. She was like a light in a sea of darkness, and I knew I could try my best to be the father for her. This meant that I had to work extra hard to make sure I had enough money, just to be able to give her anything and everything she wanted, along with necessities, and only the best quality. I didn't want my wife or my daughter to have to go through the same thing I did when I was a kid. However, working extra hard also meant working overtime. So even though I wasn't trying my best to be home and take care of my family as much as I could, sometimes it just would not happen, and I'd arrive home to find them both asleep. For some reason, the relationship between Samantha and I got worse after Haley was born. We seemed to grow even more distant than we were, and every conversation that we tried to have would just lead to another fight. Not only was this affecting our mental health, but it was also making a 1-year-old Haley really anxious. That's because the environment at home, one that was supposed to provide her comfort, was instead just causing her to get stressed, and even though she was just a baby. This made Samantha and I come to the conclusion that we just would not try to speak to each other. Our conversations minimized the basic necessities of the talking, and then we'd go back to just being silent. It felt as if we were roommates instead of a married couple. Well, our house lacked the usual warmth it always had, and we were to blame for it. We were. Personally, I thought we were faking it enough for it to not affect Haley. However, it did. Honestly, I think the blame for it goes to Samantha. I tried my best to maintain a healthy relationship with us so that Haley could have a nice childhood, but ever since Haley turned 10, Samantha's been ranting about our relationship problems to her. It doesn't make sense to burden a child with so much. Not to mention that by doing all this, Samantha's actually ruining Haley's relationship with me. I admit, I'm busy a lot and I can't give as much time to our family as I should, but the only reason I'm working this hard to provide them with everything they need to live a happy and comfortable life. For some reason, not only do I not get appreciated for it, but I also get hated. However, I never expected my life to get this empty. At one point, I knew Samantha considered getting divorced because our relationship was getting so strained. However, when I got to know about it, I made sure I talked to her about it enough to make her understand that this was not what I wanted. I worked hard to let her see that I was willing to put in extra effort to make this relationship go. At some points, it bugged me because every time we fought, it's because I wasn't putting in enough effort to mend the relationship. But then, when I would think about it, she never put in any effort either. I would plan these dates, and I would bring gifts for her for every occasion, but she just never remembered it. All she remembered was that I would stay at work late and not give her said enough time. I even tried to be at Haley's games and everything. All of this made me feel super unappreciated, but nothing could compare to what I was feeling right now. It was a random Thursday night, and I've just gotten free from work and wanted to spend the entire night with my family. It was the one day when I'd gotten off work early and I wanted to have a little movie night with all three of us there. However, when I reached home, I realized that Haley wasn't there. Upon inquiring about her whereabouts, I found out that she had gone to a party and would not be back before midnight. Even then, I tried to make the most of the situation and wanted to watch a movie with Samantha, but she brushed me off and went to bed. She said she was exhausted and wanted to catch up on her sleep, but I wasn't exactly sure what she had been doing the entire day to be this tired. Nevertheless, I figured that this might be a nice time to relax and catch up on some work, so I turned on the TV, got my laptop while sitting on the couch and enjoying a nice cup of coffee. I also wanted to stay up till midnight to see Haley come in because even though we have given her a curfew, I still worried about her a lot and wanted to see her come in before I went to sleep. However, an hour later, I get a call from the police station telling me that Haley's been arrested for underage drinking. I felt my world stop at that moment. I'd always made sure to make Haley realize the dangers of underage drinking, and I trusted her enough to not indulge in anything until she was of legal age. She had broken that trust now, and I felt like it was just going to get worse from here. I instantly grabbed my jacket off the rack and rushed out the door to the police station where she was held. Anxiety rushed through me as I walked into the station trying to find Haley and get her back home safely. As soon as I saw her, I realized that she had no regret in her face as she looked me in the eyes and just rolled her eyes. I remember closing my eyes and just calming myself down before I started lecturing her right there and then about her reckless behavior and how she was being an idiot and ruining her life by getting into all this trouble. The least she could do was look at me and realize what she did was wrong, maybe have some regret about it, but she was not doing any of that. I quickly got her bailed out and we made our way to the car, silently. I was too angry to even speak to her, but I don't know why she wouldn't say a word. She should have at least muttered a sorry or thank you for getting her out of this mess. If Samantha had been the one to pick up the phone instead of me, she'd be listening to her mom screaming her ears off. Instead, she got me, and I was trying so hard to make her comfortable by holding in my anger and not giving her a reason to shut off from me again. However, once we got into the car and I started driving, I could not help but tell her how ridiculous her behavior was. I would never support underage drinking, and she knew that. Yet not only did she get arrested for it, but she also had no shame about it. She didn't even try and understand what happened, so I went off on her on the car ride home and it turned a bit nasty. Wow. The fight started because I was lecturing her about being careless just like any other parent would, but she thought that this wasn't something she deserved to be lectured on because she was 17 now, which meant that she was old enough to make her own decisions. According to her, all her friends were involved as well, and their parents did not make as much a fuss about it as I did. All her arguments just sounded stupid to me as an adult. Just because your friends were doing something didn't mean that you should do it as well. What if they were doing something dangerous, or worse than this? Why would she blindly trust her friends to make the right decisions for her? The rhetorical questions I sent her way weren't really appreciated because she started arguing with me in a way that almost felt like she was screaming at me. Well, this ultimately led to me starting to argue with her as well. At one point, it got so messy that we weren't exactly thinking about what we were saying to each other. Instead, our main aim was to retaliate against the other person just to be able to get our point across. Amidst this heat of argument, Haley let something slip that would change my life forever. Actually, it has changed my life forever. She told me that Samantha was a serial cheater and had been cheating on me for almost 4 years now. As soon as the words left her mouth, I felt my ears starting to ring, and my mouth ran dry. It felt as if I could not breathe for a second, until I had to get myself out of that feeling and come back to reality, where Haley was sitting still, eyes wide and hand over her mouth. Clearly, this wasn't something that she wanted to talk about. It made me wonder how many more secrets they both have been keeping from me, and I still don't know anything about it, huh? After a few seconds of silence, while my knuckles turned white from how tightly I was gripping the wheel, I told her to explain herself. At first, she would not budge. She would not say a single thing, no matter how many times I asked her to make herself clear. It came to the point where my patience was running thin, as she would not answer any questions I had to scream to get it out of her. That's when I found out that what's been happening all these years and how it's still happening. Apparently, Haley and Samantha felt as if I was never home, and did not give them enough attention as a family. Even though I tried explaining that I worked this hard to give them everything that they want and desire, Haley kept repeating that I never made enough time for them. This was when Samantha went out once with her friends. She met a guy that she felt attracted to. They hooked up for a few months, and Samantha even had Haley meet with the guy when she brought him home. Haley didn't care that Samantha was cheating because she felt the same way. She told me how I was not a good family member, and it made sense that Samantha went somewhere else looking for romance and a chance to feel loved. In the past 4 years, Samantha's been cheating on me with over 8 guys. That's right. She hooks up with one guy for a couple months before she gets bored or they break up, and then she moves on to another guy. At the end of her explanation, one that I stayed quiet for the entire time because I was fuming with anger, I couldn't wait to get home and grill the information out of Sam. Even though Haley knew quite a lot more than what I'd like her to know, Samantha and I still need to talk about it. However, I could not really do that because Haley got frantic and made me promise not to tell Samantha that I've told her. Initially, I wasn't going to listen to her because this was between my wife and I, and we needed to deal with it on our own. But Haley blackmailed me, told me she would never talk to me again if I mentioned it. So for now, I've kept quiet about the entire thing, but honestly, I'm not really sure how much longer I can keep this secret. Update number 1. So, the past few weeks have been tough, to say the least. Every time I look at Samantha's face, all I see is a cheater who doesn't care about anybody except herself and her need to sneak out with a different guy every few months. It was getting hard for me to keep all the feelings and resentment inside when I saw Samantha, roaming around the house like nothing was ever bothering her. Why would anything bother her anyways? She wasn't the one being cheated on for over 4 years. Well, it got worse every time Samantha asked me to buy her something or do something for her. The hate started paralyzing my mind, and all I could think about was, well, her being with other men behind my back. This led me to last week. I sat in Haley's room right there on her bed, and head in my hands as I tried telling her that I could not do this anymore and I was going to break the promise and let Samantha know that I knew all about her endeavors behind my back. Wow. The only reason I wasn't going with my plan without confronting Haley was because I've already lost my wife, and I didn't want to lose my daughter as well. If it weren't for Haley, I would have kicked Samantha out of the house already, but I did not want my daughter to leave my life. Even though Haley wasn't particularly fond of me, I still loved her like I did the day she was born. She would always be my daughter, and nothing could ever change that. And she wasn't at fault for any of this anyways. Samantha had been feeding hate in Haley's head about me ever since Haley could understand what was happening. It was stupid of me to think that leaving Haley with Samantha all day would lead to nothing else than this. However, I didn't know that Samantha hated me this much. I agree that we've had fights ever since I started working, but I tried my best to get it solved, and to not let it directly affect Haley. I don't understand why Samantha cannot do the same as well. Sitting in my daughter's bedroom, I tried explaining to her my side of the story and why her supporting her mom was super hurtful. I only worked this hard so they could afford everything they ever wanted. I asked her if she'd like me to work less if I couldn't give her all these materialistic things that she desired. To this, Haley had no response. I told her that I was going to confront her mother about the whole situation, but she became frantic. Apparently, she didn't want to belong to a broken family, so she told me not to mention a word, to just live my life the way that I was already doing it. No matter how much I tried telling her that the family was already ruined, she did not budge. She just kept repeating that she was not going to talk to me anymore ever, and break all contact with me if I said a word to Samantha. Wow. I understand her concern, but at the same time, I'm not sure I want to go along with it. It all got way too overwhelming for me, so I've just started burying myself in work, and now I'm hoping I either forget about all this soon enough, or I don't have the energy to deal with it anymore. Update number 2. The past few weeks have been making me lose my mind. You can't just expect me to stay calm and let everything just play along as it was before. It doesn't work like that, and I'm too attuned with my feelings and emotions to just simmer down. I could not do it when we were a happy couple, and I seriously can't do it now that we're practically threading on the thin line with each other. Everyone could notice how angrier and short-tempered I was. At my office, I kept getting mad at every employee, and even my assistant got stuck in the crossfire, even though I had every intention to keep my problems at home away from work. That has always been a number one rule for me ever since I started this job, and guys, it's broken now. Not just my employees, but my own family has also started noticing that my mood has been a bit cranky. Obviously, Haley knows why it's like that, but it's been a very big change for Samantha. She's never seen me this cranky. I've always been the one to handle everybody's moods, so it's uncommon for me to be this way, and my family has got to, handle my mood. It got us into a lot of fights because every single thing that Samantha would try and do or say would lose it and tell her off. This would lead to a fight and both of us sleeping in different rooms. Even though Haley told me she didn't want this family to be ruined, that's why she wasn't letting me tell Samantha I knew. I felt like these fights were ruining the family even more. Then the day came when I finally burst. It was a Sunday, and being home all day with Samantha was really taking its toll. I could not even look her in the eyes without having my anger levels rise. Just like every other day, this led us to a fight, and this time I had enough of her antics. In a burst of anger, I screamed and let her know that I knew she was a serial cheater and that she'd been cheating on me for almost 4 years now. Hearing all the commotion, Haley rushed downstairs and quickly realized what I have just done. Both of them turned to me as I try to control my anger and demand the names of the guys that she's cheated on me with. However, all I'm met with is a sarcastic laugh, and her telling me that I've lost that right when I stopped coming back home early to spend time with them. It was so ridiculous to hear those words coming from her mouth that I didn't even know how to react to it. Then she proceeded to tell me that every guy she's been with had made her feel more loved than I had in the past few years, and that I was the worst of them all. I tried telling her that I was trying my best to support them and to make sure that they lived the good life in a world where inflation was crushing every soul money. None of them listened to me as I screamed and tried expressing how I wasn't the one in the wrong because I still considered them my family. They were the ones not putting in the effort anymore and not making sure that we could come out of this with a loving family once again. The conversation just let me go and sulk on my own because I realized that no matter how much I tried, they would never understand why I was working so hard. They were incredibly selfish because I know for a fact that I wasn't entirely absent. I remembered all the important dates for both of them, made sure we spent every holiday together, and made sure I made time for them after I came back from work. Even if it was super late and I was exhausted, most of the time I barely got to see Haley during the weekdays because I left super early and came back really late, but I tried my best. Update number 3. After everything that happened last week, I've decided that I can't live with this family anymore. I can't be a part of this family anymore, and if they really thought they were better off without me, then that's exactly what I was going to give them. They were forgetting that all the hardships that I went through because of work were only so that I could provide them with a nice life. Once they're left with nothing, they're going to recognize my importance and beg me to come back. And when they do, I'm going to tell them that they can go cry themselves to sleep because I was never going to come back to them. Over the years, I've managed to expand my business globally. This meant that I could work from any place I wanted as long as I had a branch there. That wasn't really hard because I had a branch in a lot of places. So without thinking more about it, I decided that I was going to handle work from Europe instead. So I moved abroad and left my family to fend for themselves. 2 days after my fight with both of them and them telling me that they didn't need me anymore, I honored their wishes. Initially, I spent the 2 days at a friend's house so I could, get away from the mess for a bit. That's where I came up with this entire plan and decided to live my life for myself and not for people who don't appreciate me anymore. Well, that night I went home to pack my bags and booked a flight and an apartment to move overseas. However, Samantha came into the room just as I was packing my stuff and emptying my side of the room. Concerned, she asked me what I was doing, and at first I did not respond to her, but then I figured that she should know what I was about to do. So I told her, I'm leaving her and Haley to their own. This way she could bring over any guy she wanted because I'm done with this family, for good. At first she kept asking what they were going to do to survive. But once she realized she was just proving my point, she got super angry and went off on me, telling me that I could do whatever I wanted and leave to go wherever I wanted to. Well, this caused another fight because she told me I was supposed to leave money for them before I left. When I told her I'm not leaving them a damn thing except the house. Her eyes widened almost in a comical way. She called Haley down from her room and told her to say bye-bye to me, but she said it in a very condescending manner. She kept mentioning how I was leaving them without anything but the house. Well, I get angry at both them, and I know I said stuff that I wasn't exactly really supposed to say. There was a part of me that hoped that she would understand, that she would see the necessity of this choice, but as her words cut through the air, sharp and unforgiving, any remaining flicker of hope extinguished. The ache in my chest was palpable, and the mixture of grief and anger of sorrow at leaving behind what was familiar and the resolve to forge a new path far removed from the deceit and betrayal that had defined my marriage. The thought of a new beginning in a foreign land, far removed from the memories and expectations, was scary, but I knew I had to do this. It was necessary because this family wasn't benefiting anyone now. We were only together for the sake of being together. No one really cared about each other, and the way both of them were treating me was something that I could not handle anymore. I need to teach them a lesson and get away from my own mental health. Update number 4. It's been a month since I left Samantha and Haley and moved overseas. Life has been good to me. I'm getting back on track with my mental health and letting myself enjoy life without having to worry about pleasing people, even when I'm exhausted out of my mind. However, the peace was short-lived when I get a call from Samantha with a heavy sigh. I answered it, bracing myself for the torrent of accusations and demands that I knew would follow. She was demanding that I return or at least send a bit of money so they could get whatever they wanted. She argued that I owed them at least that, but honestly, when did I approve everything for them? They always just took it for granted. They told me that other guys that Samantha was sleeping with were better than I was, making them feel like a family. So now they could go crawling back to those guys and demand whatever they needed because I wasn't going to give them anything. The picture of her betrayal, of the endless hours she spent away wrapped in another man's arms, fueled my rage, blinded me to any sense of compassion or pity. They sent me on a constant stream of text messages on my phone for weeks, begging, apologizing, attempting to break the walls, all around with determination, you name it. Every accusation of neglect and abandonment Samantha made throughout our attempts at reconciliation felt like a knife piercing the thin layers of my broken heart. However, Haley's messages conveyed a sense of longing as a daughter dealing with the fallout from her parents' failed marriage. However, those messages soon turned salty as well, and I realized the only reason that she was trying to be nice to me was that I could send them money to give them back that luxurious lifestyle that they lost because of their own selfishness. However, as the messages continued, I noticed that I was withdrawing even more into the newly discovered bubble of independence. Their words, which had the power to bring out emotional responses from me, suddenly seemed hollow and fake because of the past betrayal. Well, I felt super guilty about leaving them when the messages poured in, but the reminder of what they did to me, as I remembered the vile words that each of them told me, well, I'm done. Alright, I'm not going to lie, the comment section on this one was rough on both sides. Most of the people, though, were in favor of OP, but a lot of people were saying, hey, we don't know the perspective of his family, who, by the way, he's saying all these negative things about too. But yeah, we get it, his wife cheated, but at the same time, we don't know what was happening that led up to all these events. Guys, that was one side of the comments, and another side of the comments, they were totally against that, arguing back and forth like a war, saying, hey, you know what, OP was in the right 100%. He was providing for his family, he was doing everything that he could possibly do to put bread on their table and just give them everything. When he found out some, well, news that has been happening in his marriage, and I just want to know your thoughts about it. Which side do you land on? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you for joining me today. My name's Mr. Reddito, and if you want more daily videos, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel. I'll see you tomorrow, and remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.